What if the thing holding you back financially isn't a lack of discipline or strategy, but a story you've been telling yourself for years? Welcome back to Category 1, your host, Perez, and today's conversation is one I've been excited about for a very long time. I'm sitting down with my dear friend, Garrett Gunderson, author, financial educator, and someone who's spent decades helping people rethink their relationship with money. In this episode, we talk about the money story, the quiet narratives we carry, often starting with protective lies meant to shield us from shame or guilt. Garrett breaks down how self-perception shapes our financial decisions, why financial honesty is the real starting point of wealth creation, and how awareness can free us from patterns that no longer serve us. And this conversation reminded me that real wealth starts with honesty. You're not going to miss this one, so let's dive right in. When I thought about Category 1 branding, which is sort of my big focus now, either you're the best at something, you're the most unique, or you're the first of its kind, or you're the only. You've always been different, with the long hair, the good looks, the unique approach to wealth. Tell me about how do you see your difference and how has that benefited you in your career?
I love to bring creativity to a dry, drab world, and finance is one of the more boring places where people feel like they're supposed to wear suits, they're supposed to be a certain way. And I was in college and told my roommate, I just want to make enough money that I could have my hair the length I want to have it. I could just wear what I want. And I remember seeing him in 2010 and he's like, "Oh, dude, you're free. You made it." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "The hair." And I had totally forgotten.
Yeah.
From my Kurt Cobain days, I had long dyed hair in college, hoop earrings, Jenko jeans, if you remember those baggy atrocities, And so it's just like, what if I could just be myself in finance, not be what finance thinks I should be?
You say something here, which I quite like a lot, and I think this is your point of view around money. Money follows value. One of my mentors and dear friends said that money is just the story of value, and if you master telling the story of your value, then you'll never worry about money again. So tell me about
who's that mentor? Because I love that. That's so well said. Thinking about the work that you do with people now, I think of people have a money story, and it's 3 layers deep at least. And the first layer of the money story is the lie, unintentional. But it's a protective lie, what people tell people to protect themselves from feeling guilt, shame, or embarrassment. So I'll meet people that will say stuff to me like, "I don't need to drive a nice car." I'm like, if that were true, you wouldn't have told me. You're saying it because you feel like you should be driving something nicer. Right? You're not at neutral. And it's fine. It's just that you're telling me a story because of how you want me to perceive you. But all the things that we kind of tell, that's fine. But the part that really liberates people is what we only tell ourselves. If we can find a safe space, and I know you create these safe space all the time, where you can actually speak something you've only said to yourself about your feelings around money, business, growth, but especially like, hey, why I'm far behind. Why has that person got more than me? I'm stupid. Whatever it is, when we can actually say it out loud, it stops the stranglehold. It stops holding us captive. And it lets us see beneath, which is the blind spots, the basement, what we can't share because it's got a subtle subconscious grip on us. But if we can start to be honest about things, all progress begins when we're honest. And when we have that awareness, because we've now spoken, we're not renumerating and thinking the same thoughts over and over again, we can get to those things that are really holding us back. And then all of a sudden our money story becomes that we just speak wealth into existence because we speak from a place of abundance and value creation and service and solving problems. And we still might complain and bitch every now and again. We still have bad days. It's not like we're just enlightened because we figured out our money story. I mean, I write books, and in 2023, I was being a total victim. I was like, dude, I am in stage 4 kidney failure. And I was thinking about death, not about vision, not about creating value. I was thinking about survival, which is a form of scarcity. I got really selfish during that time, right? All of a sudden, I went from victim to vision. And the vision was like, well, what could I dedicate my life to? And I just spoke about this on Saturday. A guy came up and he goes, man, I have cancer right now. And I shared my kidney stuff, which I haven't really been sharing until recently. And he goes, I realize I'm so committed to my victim story that I stopped creating a vision for the future. And the vision for the future might be the very thing that liberates me from this, or at least lets me live my best life between now and then. And I was like, cool. I'm glad that I shared it. I didn't share it with a lot of people because I don't want you to feel sorry for me. Like, what are you gonna do if I'm like, hey, we have kidney issues. I was already bringing my wife down. I didn't want to bring everybody else down, you know? My wife introduced me to this woman named Allison. We did a Zoom, and Allison's like I don't know what kind of therapist she is or what her even title is, but if my wife recommends something, I'm like, cool. So I'm on the session, and I could tell she's just reading my body language and looking at me, and she's like, tell me about your birth. I'm like, what do I know about my birth? She's like, well, if your mom's alive, you should call and ask her. So I call my mom. I'm like, meet with this person. She wants to know about my birth. And she's like, well, it was pretty traumatic. The cord wrapped around your neck. You stopped breathing. They hit you in the face with the forceps. You had a bloody lip. They ripped you out of my arms. They didn't let me hold you. And I didn't, your dad tried to make a joke to make it lighter. It made it worse. And I was crying. And I was like, oh, so, I have this like deep down insecurity about abandonment. Like, what if I do something wrong? Will someone abandon me? Right. And it even showed up in my marriage. Because I had this belief. I was like, what if the person that knows me best chose not to love me? Then it means the person that knows the most about me would think I'm not lovable. Now, this is just some made up story that I've put in my head, but would believe it. And, and basically could potentially be related to how this birth trauma happened. So woman's like, hey, do you know a cranial sacral therapist? I'm like, I do. I go to one. She's awesome. She's like, go to a cranial sacral session, but ask your body what it's like to hold on to these emotions. And so I go through this process, let go of this birth trauma, tell this elaborate story to my therapist. And all of a sudden I come home and I feel like a different person, not afraid of being abandoned, which meant I'm immediately like, cool, I'm out on this licensing deal with the company that I sold. That's not working. This other partnership with one of my best friends isn't really working for me. I'm out on, I stopped being afraid of being abandoned, which meant I started to own what I wanted. And then the kidney thing kicks in from all that stress. And now I'm in an opposite where I'm like, well, what happens if I abandon my family? What if I die? What happens to my kids, to my wife? And I start thinking about all the pain I caused. So it's like I got to see both sides of those coins and that coin and kind of do some work. But you wanted me to talk about something I haven't really talked about before. I think it's that story right there. And it's just, I had insomnia, which my insomnia, because of the adrenals being on top of the kidneys, I would get insane at like 3-4 in the morning because I'd be like, another night not sleeping. I'm really fatigued, but then I'm like thinking about death. It's weird to go from being all the accolades, New York Times bestselling author, Inc. 500, blah, 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 good speak, and to being like, what's my future look like? And being pissed off about some of my choices, and then having to be like, oh, do I believe in what I've written, or is that just words on a piece of paper? And part of it was I was finishing this book and releasing it in 2023, Money Unmasked, which was all about this. So when I wrote Killing Sacred Cows, it was annoying because it comes out and I'm saying net worth is relatively worthless. And my net worth went from 8 million to 0 in the real estate meltdown. And now I'm writing this Money Unmasked book talking about healing our relationship to money and creating a game that you already won because you win first, then you play, versus playing not to lose, which is holding on to what you have, or playing to win, which is chasing something that you don't. And in my Wealth Factory deal, I was playing not to lose so I wouldn't lose the revenue. In my other partnership, I was playing to win so that I would produce for both of us. And then I realized I just wrote a book on win then play, and I haven't designed a winning game. So it's like, son of a bitch, this is so annoying, but it was so helpful. So I had to reread my own stuff, eat my own cooking. I focused on having some fun, That's been a new thing, just, back to teasing people and having a good time.
There's two things that opened up for me regarding people's money story, because you talk about it a lot. There's a whole world that people have in and around the relationship money. And you say it goes a few letters deep. What's the best way to kind of figure out your money story?
I've never asked someone to do this, but this would be super effective. Pull out a piece of paper and draw a line down it and write down all the things that you don't want. I don't want debt. I don't want, and then write down what you do want. And what you're going to find is most people are infinitely better at writing down what they don't want. And that's because of this protection preservation mindset that comes around money. So most people that will tell me, I don't want to have any loans. I'm like, cool. If you didn't have any loans, then what? And they're not as clear about that next layer. They're in that protection, right? Or I'll say, a good question I'll ask people is, hey, if you had an unlimited checking account and every time you spent the money, it just came back in, what would you do differently in life? And then I have people say, well, I'd probably buy some real estate if that's the case. I'm like, so do you love real estate? They're like, well, no, but it's a good investment. I'm like, who cares about the investment? You have an unlimited checking account, right? It's like, what you realize is most of our narratives comes from other people telling us what we want. And this is the real key to healing your relationship to money. You just have to know what you want unapologetically. Most people feel guilt, shame, embarrassment. They feel judged. They feel jealous. They feel all these things because they're not clear about what they want. So they think they want what someone else has, or that they should have what someone else has. And because they don't, they start to judge themselves. But look, I was in the mountains for a couple of weeks doing a ton of hiking because I was hunting elk. And the whole time I just had time to think. And I would just say, what do I want? What do I really want? And not the spiritual answer that I think everyone would want me to say, and not the, it's like not the airy, but just like, what do I really want? From 1 a.m. that night after it's like the second night hunting, I stayed up from 1 to 5, just writing down what I want. And I've just carved it out into my life. I'm like, I want to have coffee and a conversation with my wife every morning. So we did that for an hour and a half this morning. I want to have a vision and visit with her every night. So we get in the hot tub or the sauna at night, and we talk about where we're headed, what we're excited about. I'm like, I want to go pro when it comes to video. And by the way, we're a month into me writing down this exercise. I've had 3.3 million views on YouTube in the last 28 days because I got clear about what I wanted. Just like when you saw me with comedy, I got clear I wanted to do comedy. I went all in. It wasn't because someone else said, it'd be good for you. You should do comedy. It's good. And it's like, we do so much of what other people want us to do because we think it'll make us liked and respected or protected. And the key is when we get congruent with what we want, we become really powerful. But we have to stop judging what we want as bad or wrong or selfish or greedy or any of those kind of things, because often it's just what helps us to evolve and enjoy the process. And to me, when we're clear about it, then we can enjoy the process along the way. Because to me, wealth is when we're just able to be present. People who aren't wealthy are never present. Do you ever see that time show with Justin Timberlake where everybody lives till 25 and then you have to earn the time instead of money?
Yeah.
Like, and the difference between the poor and rich people is the poor people are always in a hurry. Right. And I think that's the message that's kept people poor, is thinking that if we grind and if we just work hard and if we just do more, that we'll have more and the more people. But again, it's usually, you've seen it, every one of us entrepreneurs have something we're chasing or running from until we do the work. Right. And it's like, well, do you like me now? How about now? If I make more money, if I drive this, if I have these, if I do and it's always like this proving something that comes from that. And the thing is, if we just know what we want, we start to establish our money story versus the world's money story, or versus our parents' money story, or our spouses, or whoever it might be.
I didn't grow up with money. I had a very humble family, and I remember at 14 wanting to make money. But cut to maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, my brother was visiting. We were in Arizona, and I was driving to the hotel. He's like, where are you going? I was like, I'm going to the ballet. Well, there's just parking over here. Why would we pay for a ballet? And I was like, we're parking in ballet. And he goes, when did you get to be so bougie, Ree? I think I was always bougie. I just didn't afford bougie. So it was kind of more of a mindset and that I related to it. It's like I always thought of myself as someone who made more money than I had at the time. And then it sort of lived into that. And then, of course, eventually my money caught up to that. I loved your concept of like this win first, then play. And then what you just said, getting clear on what is it that you want. And most people don't really know what you want.
I'm an Inc. 500 business owner, but half the time I'm introduced as a Fortune 500. Very different things. And then I got my comedy special on Amazon Prime, and most people say it's on Netflix. So I'm like, not quite the same, but it's cool, But to get it there, I could have easily got trapped on, I'll be happy when it's on Amazon Prime. But actually, the journey of people like you coming to support and watch, and me going to different cities and getting to hang out with my friends, and the meals beforehand and the after, going out to the bar for a bit, like those kind of things, that was all a win. So I just had to remind myself. If I had a good set one night, I'm like, hey, this was the win. It was right now in this moment because I just got to do comedy. I just got to hang with some friends that I wouldn't have probably hung out with if I wasn't in the middle of this comedy tour. And I got to ask for support, and they support it. So it's like you have to find the win in the work, not just in the outcome.
Yeah.
Because if it didn't get on a streaming service, it was still a win because I got to do something that I loved since I was 5 years old. I got to do something that helped me feel expressed, and that helped me feel connected, and that helped me to invent. So that was the win. The win wasn't, the win wasn't getting it on Amazon Prime, although it happened on my birthday, which was super cool. And immediately I called my wife and she was excited. But then I called my son and he goes, why not Netflix? Which I thought was hilarious. That was his response. I was like, dude, come on, man. Like it's fine.
How do you advise people when they, let's say they lean into your message of go for the fun, the play? What is it that brings you the most joy? And yet, what is it that they bring, that what brings them joy and fun isn't monetizing or isn't bringing them money? What do you say in that scenario? How do you reconcile the two between following what you love and following what makes you money?
Well, I like to encourage people to become financially independent where they have enough cash flow from assets to cover their expenses. Then they have choice every day in what they do. Living the most fulfilled life doesn't always mean you make the most money. Like, I would have been wealthier financially if I would have taken the job as an investment banker. I just would have been bankrupt from a soul level. It would have been everything I stand against, nothing that I enjoy. I would be, so it doesn't always mean that if you live the life that you love, you're going to make the most money. As a matter of fact, you might actually carve more time out for relaxation, rejuvenation, and recreation, and see leisure as a worthwhile activity and play. But I actually find, like in 2017, I think I spent the summer in Italy. That was my biggest year to date at that point. I had never made more money than 2017 because my team had to mature. They got to grow up. We planned it for 18 months to get that infrastructure. So part of it is you have to really decide what you're going to do and delegate the rest. And if you're not, like, if your hobby is what you're trying to do every day and there's no value to the world, you've got to find a way to at least create enough value in a way that's consistently aligned with who you are, even if it's not the thing that like lights you up 100% all the time. Like, even if you have the biggest compelling vision, you're not doing what you want 100% of the time. You will deal with minutia, you will deal with problems, you'll deal with difficulty, you'll deal with certain systems that might not, but as time goes on, you find people that if you have cast a big vision, people will support that vision and they'll do the things you don't love to do that they're built for. So I think there's a divinity to diversity. And the more diverse the talent, like I got a video, I said, hey, billionaires are really good at out other people's ability, other people's money, and other people's time. Millionaires and multimillionaires often aren't as good at other people's time and other people's ability. They do too much on their own. And if you're doing something like my sister's a school teacher, well, it's not like a really high income, but she created a blog that she was making more from her blog than from teaching. So she found a different format to express her skill set. What would help you generate more income? Are you willing to do real estate? I don't love real estate. Are you willing to start a business or build a business or buy a business and continue to ask, how can it operate without you? Are you and I, we like intellectual property and we create intellectual property, but you find cash flow generators that bring in money, even if you don't open a computer or look at your phone that day. Then you have even more time freedom when you're financially independent. And by the way, it doesn't take 30 years like the world tells you. It could take, I've had people do it in less than a year. Those are pretty insane individuals that are willing to spend an extra 20 hours a week and live off of rice and beans and stuff that I probably wouldn't do. I would probably take, look, I had financial independence, and then when I unwound everything, I didn't have it after 2023. I had a lot of assets, but they weren't creating enough cash flow for this. I created a pretty big lifestyle, but I was able to recreate that in 1 year because I had the relationship capital, I had the mental capital. I was doing, so like there's a faster way to do it. But the reality is you have to have financial intelligence, because if you don't, it'll be a permanent penalty and it's going to continue to cost you. And you could be doing what you love, but if you don't have the financial wherewithal to support it, you might find yourself in financial stress and then you're not loving the things you do anymore because you're worried about money all the time.
There's so much in what you just said. Two things. One is just on the capital part. Like, I've been talking about like these 6 C's of what it means to be a category of one brand. One of those C's is capital. And it's not just financial capital. It's I love the way you said it, but there's financial capital, there's mental, relationship capital.
Yep.
And these are all, I think, tools to help you build a brand, build a business. When I'm coaching clients, I talk about 3 things. It's like, is it fun? Are you creating value, which is what you just said? Can you create value in them for other people? And then third, is it profitable? Right? And maybe another way for entrepreneurs, that's the right message, but is it something that is, is there a surplus, I suppose, is another way of saying it.
I think a lot of people think about value and profitability and they leave out the fun. And this is where, and part of the reason, in my assessment, is because people are taught to model after others. But the problem is, what if you model that this is a profitable business, but it's not something that can be fun for you? Like, I know a lot of people that are teaching, buy a boring business, do the boring stuff, just outwork it's like that could work, but I would rather find something that I'm engaged in. Like, I actually love to write books. I think that the fun part is something that too many people are taught is not possible. But if we believe it's not possible, we'll make it impossible. I might have the hair of a shaman. I don't have the skill of a shaman. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, we've evolved to shaman now, not Jesus. We're like,
I'm money Jesus. I can't, that's my skills don't translate to everywhere else. So yeah.
The way that I relate to you in one of your messages is build a life you love. And one of the things that I admire and respect about you is it at least seems to be that you are living a life that you love. Like, what are some of the other things that people need to hear on what it takes to build a life that they love?
I'll give you some tactics and then I'll give you the philosophy, because I usually go the other way, but I'm just going to, like, one of the secrets my wife and I have is we always have a trip on the books we look forward to, because you can actually experience the trip before you go on it when it's on the books.
Yep.
We're going to New York for Thanksgiving. We're going to watch the Macy's Day Parade from an apartment of this guy that's got a beautiful apartment. We're going to see the Christmas tree get lit up on, on the same floor as the Rockefellers in that Rockefeller Center. We're just going to go to some place. We're going to have some good time with friends. So like, we're already enjoying that trip because we're talking about it over coffee in the mornings, right? So it's like having that on the books is really helpful. I also feel that we could just look at our calendar and go, does this tell the story of my life in the way I want it told? Or does my life just do what the calendar tells me to do? And so carving out time and space in a calendar to say, how do I want my life to go? And being intentional about that. I refine my calendar quite frequently. When I was doing comedy, I was like, okay, 5 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, comedy club at my house. So I turned the basement, we had a bar stool, we had a mic, we had a curtain, we had cameras, we had lights, and I would do Zooms, or I would have people sit down there in the basement, and that was my comedy club. And so that was just part of the calendar. And so it was easy. The rhythms and rituals were there. So if you just do that audit and go, what doesn't belong and what does belong, what gives me energy, what drains my energy, and then I would simply make a list of people and go, who do I want to say yes to anytime they ask me if I can? That my natural inclination is to say yes. Who are the people that I want to say no to that are in my life that I can start positively saying no to them every time they ask, so they stop asking? And just by doing that, we start to invest time with the right people, and we stop spending time with the wrong people. Yes. And when we look at our calendar and go, is this what I want to do? And what are the things that are important to me? But the thing that works more than anything is create a vision and a life you don't want to retire from. So what's a vision so compelling you dedicate your life to it? I want to help 1 million families create a lasting legacy. I said that for the first time this year. And then I started doing these one-on-ones with people, helping them build a family constitution, build a family crest. And then we could basically take the essence of what was most important in their family and put it in words to start their trust from their own heart instead of just an attorney's words. And all of them have cried. And I'll admit I cried in every one of those sessions as well. Because when you start to sense the essence of a family and what matters to them, and they start to articulate that, and you could see that it's like part of their DNA, but now it's expressed to their heirs, it's magic. And I want to be part of magical moments. You know what's not magic for me? Talking about life insurance with someone. I don't want to talk about life insurance with anyone. I just happened to write a book that was really big on life insurance, but I don't have a life insurance license. I don't sit down and write insurance. I refer that out because it's good for people to get it done. But I want to get to the point of intimacy where I'm talking about stuff they've never talked about before, where we're in this moment of like, what do you really want to create in your life? And you've got to have a place where you can be vulnerable, a safe space. And you know what? This is really promotional, this next thing. And I don't really talk about it much, but I twice a month have people come to my cabin, my lodge, and we spend all Thursday together. Friday, we design everything. But that's where the magic happens. That's where we're talking about family crest, family legacy, healing the relationship to money. And it's always unique and different. So it's like not very scalable, but it's really like connected. Super rewarding.
It's deeply rewarding and fulfilling to get at the heart. I think the word you used was a family constitution. I love that. Is there anyone else that does some version of that? Or is this something that your category of one approach?
So I have an attorney that wrote a book called Entrusted. His name's Andrew Howell, and he introduced me to the concept of a statement of purpose and a letter of wishes. And so he shared with me this letter from John Bessemer that he wrote. This was a very wealthy individual in the early 1900s to his heirs. And that was like, oh, I think that we need to have this like way to express who we are so our heirs know what we stand for. And it captures the philosophies, and what Andrew says is leaving signposts behind, not strangleholds, right? So it's like there's guardrails, but there's not like telling them exactly what to do. And so when I start using the word family constitution, he's like, I don't know if it's really a constitution, but Wall Street Journal, he just sent me an article. Wall Street Journal 2 weeks ago started calling it a family constitution instead of a family mission statement. And I know I'm the one that came up with that terminology because I had to argue it and fight over it. But yeah, and now the way that I'm taking it and saying, hey, how do you want this money to be utilized in the future and not spoil kids? So like it goes through whether they want to cover a down payment for a home or cover weddings or education, and whether that's entrepreneurial pursuits, to like if they want to facilitate family reunions and retreats. And then it's also, why did you start the trust in your own words so that your heirs read about it? So I think that the entire combination is something I'm uniquely doing. And then I've got great people like Matt Silverstein, who created rockefellermethod.com/live. And for free, people could go and start their family constitution and start their family crest and have something done in an hour. It's definitely a collaborative effort, but I do feel like Andrew kind of brought me the initial thought process, and then guys like Matt have integrated AI to make it more easy for people, because my first one was 52 pages. It took me years to write. That's too long. My last one I just did a month ago with my family, and I cried when I tried to read it, so my wife had to read it with the kids. But we did a full family retreat. We went through the stuff when my kids were 7 and 9 that we're still using as kind of our family mantras, and then we added kind of the frameworks, and now they know who we are, what we stand for, how to benefit from the trust. And the trust is a meritocracy, so they don't just get money. They could borrow it if they're up to something. They have to pay interest on it. They could get down payments, but if they buy a course and don't take it, they still owe the trust money. If they finish the course, they don't owe the money. So like we have this entire incentive-based structure to support them to shine their light in the world, not so much money that it dims their light because they don't have to do anything.
Dude, you did not disappoint. When I think about someone who's a category of one, dude, like you just did not disappoint. Everything that you're doing, your philosophy, your approach. So if someone wanted to find more about your work, I know we have your personal brand site, but what would be a good starting point for someone who wants to lean more into building a life that they love, creating more, value so that money follows value?
Yeah, 3 things. 1, go to Instagram. Garrett B, as in boy, Garrett B Gunderson, and follow me, because I'm dropping daily nuggets of what to think when it comes to money, to design a way to get fit, which is how to get your financial house in order, independence, which is having cash flow from assets, and free, which is your mindset. So I really dial that in. And then if you get on my YouTube channel, it's Garrett Gunderson TV or Garrett.live in an internet browser. Subscribe there. I do a long form every week, and I take a topic and I go deep into that topic. Things like we talked about today around legacy. And listening to my books, which I'm happy to contribute for free. If you put RE inside of the DM of Instagram, I'll hook you up with my 3 biggest books: Money Unmasked, Killing Sacred Cows 2, and What Would the Rockefellers Do? It's the financial literacy package. It's yours. It's audiobooks. I work my ass off to not speak too fast on those audiobooks and sound intelligent, because I don't read as well as I speak. So, I put my whole heart and life into that. So you'll have those 3 books if you just put in the DM. GarrettGunderson.com is a website that kind of explains everything that I'm up to. I have a blog, like it's 2006 on there. I write it. ChatGPT doesn't. So it's, I think it's helpful nuggets of what we're doing. I even share people's family constitutions that gave me permission to share, so you can get examples of this.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I've got mine on there so that people could read about it. Like if you are inspired by it, you can steal it, you could take it, but make it your own. That's the key. Make it where it resonates with you and your family.
We're going to put all those links into wherever you're listening to this from. We'll put all those links in there for you to make it easier. What would be one word to sort of describe the earlier version of Garrett? And what would be the one word that you would describe the current version of Garrett Gunderson?
Ambitious would be the early word. I was pretty ambitious. And now it's more, I'm more present.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get somewhere and do I'm like, it's happened, but it's like, I could just be with people. Back then, I was kind of like, what could Reed do for me right now? Instead of being like, I'm just gonna have fun with Reed, right? It's like, that's the difference, is the ambition versus the presence.
I vibe with that, dude. The word I had for you, which is the one that's really for me as well, is grounded. You just feel really grounded. So it's an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to call you a friend and to be in your circle. And I'm excited to just share you with the people who come across my podcast and get to do a little rabbit hole, to go into some rabbit holes with your body of work. Go check out Garrett Gunderson's work. We'll have all the links in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you gathered at least one nugget that you can take into your life today. To dive deeper into my work, please visit reperez.com. That's REPEREZ.com. It's a central hub to explore how to work one-on-one with me, to connect with me on Instagram or social media, or you can check out my new book, Your Brand Should Be Gay Even If You're Not, or you can inquire about booking me to speak to your audiences about the power of building a category of one brand, your unique gifts and your unique superpowers. Lean into what sets you apart, and I'll see you next week.